Hi, this is part 4 of 5 of our next level social media marketing course. In this section, we'll be focusing on maximizing your SEO. Hi, this is your facilitator, Eric Paps, and I'll be taking you through this course. So maximize SEO. Let's just start by kind of understanding what SEO stands for. That stands for search engine optimization. It's simply about it's kind of a marketing tactic or set of tactics that help your business have higher visibility in a search engine like Google or Bing. And so this is when we do a keyword search, or we type in a bunch of words into a search box, and then what do we get back? So if you're a local business, and let's say you're a restaurant, and we type in, let's say, Indian food. If you're an Indian restaurant, of course, you'd want to show up higher in those search engine results. And so this is about how we can use these tactics, these marketing tactics called SEO, to help you do that. All right, so there's 9 tips here on this slide on how to optimize for what we call on-page SEO. On-page SEO is all of the things you do with the content on your website, or any of the what we call assets or different properties that you have on the web. So these are the things that you can control because they're your content. So number 1, always start with keyword research and keyword to page mapping. What this means is that your business, when you boil it all down, is really can be defined by a couple keywords. So with our earlier example, if you're an Indian restaurant, guess what? Your keywords are Indian restaurant. That really is a succinct way of defining what you are. So when you do this process, I want you to think about a keyword that is associated with each of the pages on your website. So if you have an About Us page, then that page is really about your brand name, whatever the name of your business is. If you've got a page that lists your products and services, then the question is, okay, for every product you have, do you have a web page about that product? And do you have a keyword associated with that people would use to find your product? So if you sit down and you look at all of the pages on your website, I want you to kind of write 1 to 3, maybe 4 at most keywords associated with each of those pages, and have some discipline around keeping the content focused on every page around those keywords that are most relevant to that content. Tip number 2, have a topic focus on every page. So once you have those keywords associated with those pages, I want you to go and re-look at those pages and say, hey, did I stay on topic? Am I really focused about this one thing that ties to this keyword? Or am I kind of speaking about a number of things? And if you're speaking about a number of things instead of one thing, I would prefer that you go out and create additional pages of content to speak to those subtopics instead of trying to cram it all on one page. The reason why you want to do this is now you are making it easy for Google to understand what the relevance is and focus is of each and every page. So the more focused you are, the higher the chance are that you're going to rank or be visible for that particular keyword phrase. Tip number 3, localize your content for the audience. So localization means that you kind of you write your content in a way that is relevant to people that are in your neighborhood. And so if it's a local business, you want to kind of speak to the fact that you are a local business and why that's important, and how you engage yourself in the community, and you want to do obvious things like put your address and your phone number on the site. So all of the things that kind of make it clear to Google that you are really a local business that is engaged with your community. Tip number 4, you're going to use unique title tags and meta descriptions on every page. So if you're using a WordPress site, you can use a plugin like Yoast. And this all depends on how you're developing your website or you're publishing your website. But there's always a way to add a title tag and a meta description to your pages. And what you want to do is make sure that those align to your keywords. So if your keyword is Indian restaurant, your title tag is going to be Buryan Indian restaurant, perhaps. Or, and then your description is going to be kind of, a little bit more like a sentence that goes in a little bit more description of what that focus is. So if you think about a hierarchy here, you've got your keyword, a few keywords that kind of are a keyword phrase that defines the page. You've got your title tag that is kind of that main headline that defines the page. And then you have a meta description, which is about a sentence or two description of what the page content is focused on. Tip number 5, optimize site speed and performance. We want to make sure that the website is quick. It loads quickly, especially on mobile devices. And so there are a number of tools that you can Google for on the web. So you just kind of go to Google and put in site speed performance tools. Find a tool that's there. They're all free. And you can just put in your website URL and it'll do an analysis for you. The biggest culprit of slow websites are images on your website that haven't been optimized for the web. Optimized for the web means that you've kind of taken a big heavy graphic and you've made it a size that's proper for display. So you don't want to use a gigantic image if you don't need a gigantic image in resolution. And then you want to use some kind of a compression file type like JPEG or PNG to reduce the file size. So you have to talk to your graphic designer or web developer about this. But the key here is just understand how fast or slow your website is, know if there's any issues, and then kind of go about the business of finding a way to correct those issues. Tip number 6, add internal links that connect users to other pages on the site. So you want to kind of, when you look at all of the pages on your website, look for opportunities to hyperlink from one page to the other so you tie your content together. This will create a kind of plumbing within your website for a search engine bot like Google to crawl your site more easily and also to better understand your content. The links that you generate, you really should focus on where it's most, kind of pick something that, a set of keywords or phrase or sentence on the page that really describes what you're linking to. The bit that you kind of add the link to is called anchor text. So if you add a hyperlink to the keywords Indian restaurant in your copy, then the terms Indian restaurant are what we call anchor text, and that's kind of almost like a label to the content you're linking to. And so keep that in mind. You want to kind of like leave breadcrumbs for the search engines that kind of understand where they're linking to, so that descriptive text that you link from is really a good way to tell Google what that page is going to be all about. Tip number 7, use schema markup to provide structured data. You can search for what schema markup is and how to deploy it, in search, or using ChatGPT to kind of do this research. But schema markup basically is a way to take the information on your page and structure it in a very standardized fashion. So schema markup has some rules associated with how you label the information on your website. For instance, if you had an address or a phone number, there's a certain way you code that in HTML that any kind of database that uses schema markup could understand it. So it's kind of a standard for labeling data. It's almost like a way to assure that a crawler or a database can exactly understand what you're telling it by properly labeling it. This is a little bit more complicated thing to pull off, and you may need a web developer to help you with this, but there's plenty of information on the web to guide you through it. Tip number 8, regularly audit your website for technical issues. So there's a number of tools out there, and I have, we list them in a slide later on in the session where we provide free tools or inexpensive tools that you can use to do a number of these things. We list one of those tools that'll help you do technical analysis in that. So we urge you to kind of, crawl, have some tool crawl your website and give you an analysis of what's working and what may need a little bit of your attention. Because what we want to do is create a, quote, clean website for the search engines to be able to find your information. And then our last tip on this slide is to monitor website traffic and user behavior in Google Analytics to inform your optimization efforts. So Google Analytics, there is a cheat sheet that we provided in this training course to help you set that up. And once you set it up, you want to look at the data. Find out, what's going on with the visitors in your website. Some of the kind of top things you can find out in Google Analytics 4 is like what are your most popular websites. You can also find out, what is the engagement rate of people that come to your site. You can get an idea of how many people converted in various things you do, like let's say downloading a document or people that are signing up for your email newsletter. All of this is going to require some configuration on your part, and it's out of the scope of this particular course. But know there's really, really rich information in a tool like Google Analytics 4 once you set it up and implement it correctly. So this would be kind of, an area that if you're not familiar with, we would recommend you spend some time and dig deeper into it. Hi, let's now do a deep dive into each of these tips by taking a look at how you might execute these tips. The first one is keyword research. So you say, okay, how do we do keyword research? Well, you can use a free tool like Ubersuggest, and you can just find that by Googling Ubersuggest and kind of, signing up for this service. It's like a freemium type of service. So you can pay for it if you want to use or kind of unlock various features. But there's some really cool key features that are free for anyone who signs up. And so, for instance, here we're using the keyword research tool within this particular vendor. And you can see here I've put in the keyword wine bar. So let's say that you're a wine bar in Burien, and you kind of want to understand what the national search volume is for that keyword. What you're trying to determine here is, hey, is this a keyword? Is this the keyword that people would use when they're searching for a business like mine? And so we put this in. We're saying, okay, it's wine bar. It's, we're looking in the United States. What we find out is that, every month 246,000 people search for this term in the U.S. And so that's not just in Burien, that is across the United States. And then, if you were to buy that keyword in Google, you might pay about $1.81 every time someone clicked on it. So what does that tell us? It tells us that this is a pretty popular term. It's probably a very good term for us if we are in fact a wine bar. And, we wouldn't want to pay for this keyword if we didn't have to. Instead, we'd like to get free traffic. So what if we optimized our website so that we appear higher for the keyword wine bar when people are searching in or around the city of Burien? So again, you want to use this tool to kind of experiment with different types of keywords and what you're trying to kind of answer is the question, is this the keyword people would use when they're trying to find a website like mine or a business like mine or content like the content I have? Here we're going to use the Ubersuggest tool once again to do a kind of analysis on either our own website or a competitor's website. And this is their tool called Keywords by Traffic. Here we're taking a local business, humblevine.com, and we are asking this tool to tell us, what are the various keywords that this particular website ranks for in Google. And what's really cool about this is you can do this for your own website and kind of very quickly see, okay, well, how am I doing? What keywords does Google think I'm relevant for? And so you see the keywords that are listed towards the left, And as you move on that, in the first table there on the left-hand side of this slide, you're going to see volume. Again, that is the U.S. monthly volume. You're going to see your position, where you currently rank for that keyword, and what does the tool estimate, or the number of visitors you might see in a month because you rank for that. And so here you can see Humble Vine ranks for, guess what? Their brand, which makes perfect sense. They rank number 1 for Humble Vine, which is definitely what you want your business to do. And then you can move down here, you see some other interesting keywords that are certainly very important to a company like Humble Vine, which is Burien Bar, for instance. Burien Bar gets 590 searches in the U.S. every month, and Humble Vine is currently ranked 15th in Google. So imagine if they weren't ranked 15th. Imagine if they were ranked number 1. How much more business would they get? Well, you know as well as I do that you don't spend a whole lot of time going to page 2, 3, or 4 in the Google search results. You tend to look at the first page, and most importantly, you look at the top listings that are on the page. And so being on 15 it's okay, but it's not going to really bring in a lot of traffic. We really need to kind of say, okay, here's a keyword that's relevant to us. It's a keyword that we think we can win on. Now let's go ahead and have a strategy to move from 15th to first. Remember we talked about tools for site audits? Well, here again we can use Uber Suggest to do a high-level site audit. Just type in your domain and enter it and let it crawl your website. And what it's going to do is it's going to crawl every single page of your website, and it's going to report back how you're performing. And so, you see on-page SEO score. Remember we talked about on-page factors. Here's a score from 1 to 100 that kind of tells you how you're doing. So if 100 is the best, 68 is pretty decent. It's also going to tell you how many keywords that you rank for currently in Google. And this is an estimate, of course, but there's about 170 keywords that HumbleVine.com ranks for today. It also tells you information like what is your number of backlinks. A backlink is when another website, not your own, but another website links to you on the internet. Here, Humble Vine has 206 websites out there that link to it. The higher number, the better. Think of these as like votes. These are votes from another website to yours saying, yeah, that content or that website is important. You can see there's other information on here like page speed, which we talked about earlier. These are all tools that you can use to get a general sense of how you're doing. The other thing you can do, and we think this is kind of a way to think about your benchmarking yourself, is to use all of these tools we're talking about here, not only to look at yourself, but look at your competition. Right? So for your Humble Vine, you might compare yourself, to other wine bars or other bars in the Burien area to kind of determine how you stack up to them. This gives you a sense of this if you're underperforming or overperforming relative to your competition, because otherwise some of these metrics might not mean a whole lot to you unless you have something to compare them to. Let's get into that a little deeper now. In this slide, we're using the same tool to compare the 909 Coffee and Wine website to the HumbleVine.com website. And here we're looking at organic traffic. So we're using the tool to kind of estimate how much monthly traffic each of these websites is getting. And what you see here is that 909 is performing better. This probably means that more people are either searching for the 909 or they're finding and discovering the 909 in various searches that they're doing. It might also mean that maybe the 909 is promoting their website through social media or paid search or other forms of advertising to draw in more traffic. But regardless of how they're getting the traffic, it's pretty clear they're getting more traffic than HumbleVine.com. Now, looks like HumbleVine has been doing a little work. You see in the last year, actually they are close to doubling their traffic while traffic from 909 has been coming down. So the competitive gap has been closing here. So this is a really interesting tool, again, to put yourself up against your competition, benchmark yourself against those people you're competing with, and see how you do and track that over time. So how much does Uber Suggest cost? Well, like we said, if you sign up, a lot of these things we just showed you, well, all of the things we just showed you are free. But they do block out or redact some of the insights to entice you to invest a little bit of money to get more stuff. But we think after looking at this tool that there's more than enough here to use as a free user, that you will get the insights you need. But if you really like the insights here and you want to get more, or you have a bigger business that you need more keywords to track, or you need to do more searches in a day in the tool, then there are various packages that you can purchase into, as you see here. Now let's move to the Bright Local tool. We talked about this a little earlier. This is a relatively inexpensive platform that can be your somewhat of a one-stop shop for managing the metrics and some of the signals related to your business in digital marketing. So the way that you use Bright Local, and you can find this at brightlocal.com, or you can search for Bright Local in Google. The way you use this is you enter all of your, once you sign up, you enter all of your business's information and save it to the system, and then you connect various things like Google Analytics and your Google business profile that we talked about earlier, as well as all of the different reputation sites like Facebook reviews and Google reviews. You connect all of those things into this tool, and it starts to pull it all together and give you a dashboard into how you're doing here. So this is a great way. It really is designed for local businesses like yours. So if you've got a business, whether it's one location or multiple locations, and you really are serving people locally, this is probably one of the best tools out there, and it's relatively inexpensive to kind of use for you to do SEO. Bright Local also provides a service to do reputation management, not only to track all of the reviews, aggregate the reviews that you're getting from various review sites like Google and Bing and Yelp, etc., but also to acquire reviews from customers that have been satisfied with your business. So this is a product that they have called Get Reviews, and you can look at this on the Bright Local site and learn more about it. But this is a way to use email or SMS text messaging to reach out to customers that have recently visited your business and ask them if they will provide you a review. It also has an interesting filtering system where if it'll ask people, hey, how did you like us? And if you say, well, I didn't like you very much at all, it routes those people to you so that they can leave a message and you will get an email to kind of respond to them, as opposed to them leaving a review on Google. So, but if they say, hey, we loved this business, then they will get the ability to leave a review at Google or any of the other review sites. So this is a way to do some servicing while getting reviews without risking someone giving you a bad review, without having you, the local business owner, without giving you an opportunity to kind of solve that problem. So really interesting tool here. We really recommend this to kind of build your trust and your reputation. And again, it's relatively inexpensive. Another thing that Bright Local does that we really love is they provide this product called a local search grid. A local search grid takes any of the keywords that you care about, and it measures where they rank in a very specific geographical area that is essentially a grid around where your business is. So let's say that your business is in downtown Burien. That would be like the center of this grid. And each one of these dots could be, let's say, 3 miles apart or 1 mile apart. You can configure this any way you want. You can make the grid bigger, you can make it smaller, you can make the spacing larger or smaller. and you can enter whatever keywords you want. And what it does then is kind of show you essentially what would happen if you walked around that grid with your phone, and every time you hit one of these dots geographically, you performed a keyword search. Obviously, a local search result is going to change depending on where you are, because your proximity to businesses influence the reviews. So if you're looking for fast food restaurants, Google's going to tend to show you the fast food restaurants that are closest to you. If you're looking for dry cleaners, Google's going to tend to show you the dry cleaners that are closest to you. So this is, where you are at any given point really does dictate the type of results that you'll see in a local search. And so this tool really shows you what happens as people search you from various geographical points within the service area that you care about. So we've been talking a lot about Bright Local. Let's talk about the pricing for this if you decide that you want to give it a try. So for a single business, it's only $35 a month, and that's really why we like it. And for $35, you actually get quite a lot, as you can see here in this slide. It also will grow with you. If you want to get more services, you want to get a more robust package, or you have more than one location, you can kind of move up to those various tiers. And this also provides a 14-day trial to try it out and see if it is what you like. We use this for almost all of our local clients. There's other services that are out there. Moz is one that other people will use, and you should check them out as well. This is, for a local business, this is kind of offers an awful lot for the money. The last thing we're going to talk about in this section is content marketing. Content marketing is the strategy of having information, educational information on your website that is relevant to your audience, that attracts them to your brand, and may ultimately lead them to purchasing your products. And so this is a way of giving back to an audience in the hope that they will so appreciate your insights and your knowledge and how you've helped them that they will ultimately do business with you. So people that use the inbound marketing strategy are really looking for their customers to come to them and do business with them. As opposed to outbound marketing, which is, a simple example of that would be knocking door to door and trying to introduce someone to a product. So here, instead of kind of coming to the customer and saying, buy my thing, you're saying, hey, here's an awful lot of information about a thing. And, oh, by the way, if you're ever interested in buying it, you can buy it from us. Here's some tips if you want to do this. First, you want to develop a content calendar with a mix of local focus topics. So think about what you want to talk about, what you want to educate folks on, and then devise a calendar around that. You can then do number 2, which is publish blog posts, articles, and case studies relevant to the audience. 3 is once you have that content, you can share local events, news, and community involvement. So you're kind of adding to this content, giving it more of a local flavor by providing more local specific content. 4 is promote the content through social media and email marketing. So now you have some content that you're constantly developing. You can use social media and email marketing to get that in front of more audiences. Facebook is a good example of this, Instagram, or using email marketing services. Number 5 is utilize various content formats such as video, infographics, and podcasts. So just by mixing it up, having some diversity in the content makes it more interesting. So just put yourself in the buyer's shoes, have empathy for them, think about what is engaging for you and what would be engaging for them, and create content that would be most kind of interesting for them to consume. Number 6 is collaborate with local influencers and experts for content creation. This is just an idea to think about, like, hey, it takes a village, and there are people out there that you may be able to collaborate with. Number 7, establish your business as a thought leader in your industry. This is really key, right? You are the expert of what you do. How can you create content that makes it clear to everybody that you're the expert that you are? So this is walking the talk. Number 8, optimize content for search engines and local keywords. So let's go back to the other things we've talked about in this section. We want to make sure that the content has a keyword focus, it has a topic focus, that there's some localization around that as well. Because, if you are, let's say, a museum, you don't want to compete with the Smithsonian. You're not really doing that if you're local. If you're a local Burien Museum or South Sound Museum, you're really focused on the people that are in this community or are going to be tourists in this community. So think about that, that localization component as you optimize your content. Number 9, engage with your audience through comments and social media interaction. So as you create the content, and people, kind of like it and comment on it, be sure to quickly comment back and start conversations. And then lastly, number 10, measure content performance and adjust your strategy based on data-driven insights. So going back to Google Analytics and some of these tools that we talked about, like Uber Suggest and Bright Local, look at the data, look for insights, adjust your strategy accordingly. All right, you did it. That concludes our section on maximizing SEO. Next up is part 5, tracking in Google Analytics.